All right, in this video, we're going to look at ways that we can help ourselves when we're building our site after Photoshop. So in Photoshop, we have an infinite amount of things we could do. We could have a gradient with a drop shadow with unicorns flying out of it and fire and all sorts of things. So we can do that in Photoshop. That's that kind of program. But when it comes to web design, we're quite limited in terms of the types of things we can put on a website down to its code. And mainly it comes down to the browsers and how old the browsers are, depending on what they can and can't support. So flying unicorns, no, there's no CSS feature for that, but there are features for gradients and drop shadows. So what we can do is we can use this website called caniuse.com. Now there are other sites like this one. I really like this site. So let's say we want to work with gradients. So if I type in gradient here, it tells me that the CSS gradient works on everything except Opera Mini. Now, if you need to support Opera Mini, then you're going to have to think twice about using CSS gradients. Luckily, gradients are out at the moment and it's all about flat design. But say you have to have a gradient that if you have to support this Opera Mini, then you're going to have to not use CSS gradients. Another thing, you might need to find out whether you have to support some older browsers. So if you're building a website and the rule is we have to support at least a minimum of Internet Explorer 9, you're not going to have CSS gradients. Now, it doesn't mean you can't use it, it just means they're not going to appear. So you might design it so that there is, if the gradient's not applied, that there is just a flat background, flat background color, and that might be fine because it's in the background, it's not a huge important part of it. Let's say something like, let's look at shadows. So shadows, there's a couple of different shadows, box shadows. So box shadows, the shadows that hang off the sides of div tags, that works pretty consistently. Let's look at text shadows. So it's not supported in IE9 again. Now this might be more important because you might be deciding that I'm going to have this very light blue text on this white background, but it's totally not readable unless there's a drop shadow behind it. So you're relying on that drop shadow for the text to be read. And what that'll do is that Internet Explorer 9 is going to be this really faded out text on white background. So it's a little bit more important. So just to have a look at the site, sometimes you're thinking, I wonder if I can do that on a website or not. This can I use? Now, another nice little extra for the site is here. It's detected that I'm in Ireland. That's where I'm filming at the moment. If I click import, it gives me this nice stuff. So at the moment, by default, it gave me the global stuff, but now it gives me actually what's happening in Ireland. So you can see globally, there's 90% supported, but in Ireland, it's 97% supported. So global takes into all countries, whereas Ireland, technologically quite modern, so a lot more is going to be supported, quite modern browsers and modern computers. Now, if you're doing a site that is specifically for, say, a developing nation, you're going to have a lot different ratio here. You're going to have a lot lower. You're not going to be able to use some of these features as much as, say, we can here in Ireland. All right, and that's the Can I Use website.